It's good to be back here once again. Peter the Warner Brothers Universal and Paramount fan 2002 here with another review on another TV show. You might be wondering why this show was hated. Well, most of you prefer the classic model series from 1984, or even the CGI animated one animated by Cinesite and Jam-Filled Entertainment. But it's not about that. On this episode of a TV show review, I will be reviewing on Thomas and Friends. All engines go. Now, you can agree with my review or negative, but some of them disagree. But that's just my opinion. Hope you guys understand. The show came out on 8th of November 2021. The show was originally aired on Cartoon Network, as part of Cartoonito morning block in the United States, Treehouse in Canada, and currently on Netflix. To the characters. Number 1. Thomas the Tank Engine. For starters, his new design, while cute, can be shockingly horrible to the point where it shockingly actually makes Lionel's design from Thundercats Roar and any other character in that aforementioned show look decent by comparison. The worst part of the redesign is his two whistle valves, which are now too far apart compared to the original series, which had them closed together. He also very surprisingly no longer has his unique triangular eyebrows anymore, which is a shame since they made his original appearance iconic. Last but not least, his dome is way too bright in color and is too close to his cab. His prototype, beta design is surprisingly even worse, as it looks more like a crappy off-brand wooden railway toy than the original Thomas. See it for yourself. Thankfully, it was changed due to how even the designers presumably thought it didn't resemble Thomas himself, and in general, its redesign very surprisingly fails to capture the same charm as its original design. Speaking of his design, he doesn't act like an engine anymore. He stretches his smoke box like it's his neck. Somehow, he uses his axles like arms, making his wheels act more like hands. He can jump and turn around, giving no point of having turntables and rails in general. Speaking of no rails, he literally cannot move without them. Because of this, why is he still an engine in this era? He has no driver or fireman, despite the reboot still having people. Overall, he acts more like a cartoony car engine hybrid, rather than the real-life counterpart that the other eras portrayed him. He has very odd-looking facial expressions that look extremely uncanny, unappealing and cringe-worthy. He is shown to be very egotistical most of the time. For example, in the episode Rules of the Game, he makes the other engines do his obstacle course his way. In the super long shortcut, he acts all-knowing when he is making a delivery with Gordon, but instead gets them both lost. While Thomas in the original can be prone to being egotistical and big-headed in some of the episodes he's in, like in Thomas, Percy and Nicole and the film The Great Discovery, he of course sometimes has a reason why he is egotistical, but here, his ego in the All Engines Go series makes him unlikable just because the plot needs to happen. His new voice is shockingly extremely annoying and high-pitched, due to the annoying voice performances from Mira and Battersea in the UK dub and Michael Contras in the US dub. While Michael does try to sound as lively as Thomas, since it could be because he presumably is a fan of Thomas and Friends, the same cannot apply to Aaron since it sounded like he's bored or just didn't want to voice Thomas at all. He has received even worse flounderization than the one he suffered from in the Sharon Miller era, as he is written as a complete child and a huge baby who always misbehaves and acts like a complete moron, to the point that he makes his Miller era counterpart look even better in comparison. He has now been turned into an annoying engine that wants to have fun rather than work, and also a whiny engine that complains and is ungrateful. For some reason, he's surprisingly allergic to hay, which never happened in the original series at all. Nobody ever grounds or punishes him for his selfish actions, making him a Kama Houdini that gives Peppa Pig a run for her money. He is also really surprisingly bland, as his personality could easily be placed in other characters, showing that his personality, with a few exceptions, is not original. Similar to Dolly Dalmatian, Thomas is heavily overused to the point where he appears in every single episode, even when not the main character, becoming the creator's pet. Because because of this, the other characters are either relegated to supporting roles or are absent altogether. He's also a complete spoiled brat in the episode Letting Off Steam. He gets into a fight with Percy just because he laughed at him. Number 2. Percy the Small Engine. For starters, his new design, while really cute to some, is also horrible to the point where it actually makes Lionel's design from Thundercats Roar and any other character thereof look decent by comparison. His recognizable whistle sound got changed to a generic toy train whistle, similar to the Powerpuff Girls in the infamous 2016 reboot. He also has very odd-looking facial expressions that look extremely uncanny, unappealing, and cringeworthy. His new voice is extremely annoying and high-pitched, due to the annoying voice performances from Henry Charles in the UK dub and Charlie Zeltzer in the US dub. While Charlie Zeltzer does try to sound lively as Percy, since it could be because he presumably is a fan of Thomas Friends, the same cannot apply to Henry Charles since it sounded like he was bored or just didn't want to voice Percy at all. He has received even worse flanderization than the one he suffered from in the late Sharon Miller era, as he is written as a complete coward to the point that would feel like Lofty the Crane or Courage the Cowardly Dog, but without the charm and likability of the aforementioned two characters. He is now turned into a cowardly engine who wants to be told by Thomas. He is also indeed really bland, as his personality could easily be placed in other characters, showing that his personality is not really original. Number 3. Gordon the Big Engine. He went from an arrogant engine to a kind father figure. So basically, many people think that this generation has caused a lot anger from Thomas fans. Even Phantom Strider placed as number 1 on his list of failed and hated modern kids shows, and he said that it has a cheap animation, and I totally agree with him. 2.5 out of 10. This show has caused confusion and delay, and so basically, Mattel has been falling apart and has been running out of ideas after buying the rights from Hit Entertainment.